Shirt show. All right, let's go.
Shirt show! Talking shirt! Shirt show! Talking shirt! Shirt show! Talking shirt! Shirt show! Shirt, man!
All right, episode 8 of Shirt Show. We're talking with Amy from Threadbare Print House in Oregon. Let's go!
Shirt show!
Amy.
Hi.
Hey, what's happening?
Not much. How are you guys?
Good. What time is it there? 1?
Yeah, it's 1, and I had to Google it, so I wasn't sure if I had the right time.
No, you're good. It's different for all of us. It's what? 3 o'clock or 5 o'clock for you?
For me, it's 3 o'clock.
For me, it's 4 o'clock. And for you, it's 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
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 So,
nice to meet you, Andy. And Dylan, we've talked before, but nice to officially meet you.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you too.
How's it going there?
It's going pretty good. Today is supposed to be 100 degrees, so we're just sticking inside and, rioting, looting in our town last night. A pandemic. I guess it's going as well as anywhere else.
What was there really rioting last night?
Yeah, we had a group of protesters break windows at the Wells Fargo and the Whole Foods.
Is that near your shop?
Yeah, a couple blocks. We're on 5th, and this happened on 8th.
So is your shop like downtown where like?
Yeah, actually, I'm lucky to have one downtown. I like being central like that. So there's downtown, and then there's like the Whitaker, which is kind of where all the breweries are, and we're right in the middle. It's called the Market District. So it's close by to lots of people that we print for, which is really nice. And it's
awesome.
Hard to get. Yeah, it's a good thing, but it's just that we can't really expand because there's not a lot of warehouse space available and affordable in that area. So I love the area, but I don't know how long we'll be able to stay there.
Would you be able to keep the storefront and like use that for sales and then have a separate warehouse to do printing in?
I guess maybe. I mean, one of the things I like about being so small is that we have customers come in and talk to the printers. And I think that has been an advantage as far as customer service for us. Like,
yeah,
to being able to troubleshoot and look at press checks and have people come watch the printing.
I think that'd be really hard to pull off. Like have a retail, like a satellite location, where you're selling and you have this counter and then you have a production warehouse. It's even if it's 100 yards away, just like you said, because when customers come in, it's so cool that it's going on right there. That's an important part of us too, that you see the action.
Yeah.
Like it's right in there. And if you have, like you said, if you have questions about what's going on or printing or anything like that, so in our building, when we were 5,000 square feet, there was a tint shop right next door to us. And then the space available, which was another 5,000 square feet, came available on the other side of him. And he didn't want to move. He was like, no, I like the center spot. I'm not moving no matter what. I'm like, if I give you $50,000, would you move down? Nope, not moving. Like nothing. He was there, right? And he was a friend of mine, but he just really liked that spot. But, and so we actually considered it, like, well, how would this work? We'd have to leave out of here and go out our front door, walk down, this far and then into the other spot. And I still decided that wouldn't fly because it was just too detached. I think some people pull it off, but it's not the same.
I've thought about it a couple times, like, cause I'm not in the city, like I'm in a small town. So I always thought like if I rented a small storefront in the downtown, like happening area, like with me, I've got Ithaca. So I've got like Cornell College and all that stuff right there. And especially like Ithaca is very like that town more than any other town I've ever known is more, we only deal with locals. Like a lot of people there, like it's all local groceries, local everything. So like I'm only 20 minutes away, but I still can't get any business from Ithaca because they're like, yeah, we only go to people in Ithaca. I'm like, dude, like I'm so close. But that's why I was kind of like, if I get a downtown area where I at least have a name on the door, I'd be like, I'm in Ithaca, like I'm in town. So I always thought like if I was there And maybe if it was me or like a manager here I could spare, I would send them up there and just have it be open a couple days a week, take orders, and then we'll fulfill them here and then drive them up there. But I haven't done it. I just always think about it.
I've thought about that if we could ever have a retail space. We've tried a little bit of that, like printing t-shirts that say Pacific Wonderland or Eugene, and we've got a few big events coming up here, like the Olympic trials and stuff like that. And it would be nice to have a retail area where we're at right now. And we have a nice lobby and everything, but we just, without doing that, I couldn't really see having 2 locations.
Yeah.
Is Eugene, is that a college town?
Yeah. University of Oregon. Ducks.
Do you print? Is that some of what you print? Is that are they a customer of yours?
No, not really. I mean, you have to pay the licensing fee to print for them, right? And I think I heard it's $10,000 a year or something, and it probably pays for itself for some of the bigger shops. But for us, it wouldn't make sense at all. So we get like a lot of student groups, and we just can't officially print the logo, but we print for other groups on campus. So it's still nice to be near a college.
Yeah, we do.
So
So we have a license for, it's called Lindenwood University. And I want to say it's just a couple $100, but we don't print. We'll print for a football camp or for organizations and stuff. And we can use their logo, but we don't print merch for the bookstore, in other words, with royalties and things like that.
Yeah, same.
I don't know. I'll forward you the licensing company, because I think they have like 1,000 colleges. So I wonder if if it'd be that easy. Maybe you can't print for like the bookstore or whatever, but you can print but you could use their logo.
Yeah,
we've done that a little bit we have Binghamton University right here, and we did it, and it was I think it was like $2,000 a year. But the thing that we kept running into that was a pain in the ass was anytime you were about to do something, you had to send them a sample or send them like a picture and to get them to approve it. And then you had to send them royalty fees for every job. And then I don't know, years ago, we were talking about doing the fraternity stuff. And then we found out that you have to pay for all the Greek letters because you can't, dude trademarked all that stuff.
It used to be we would get a letter every 2 months that said, "Hey, knock it off! You're using Greek letters or whatever, and we're going to sue you." Did you ever get those?
Yeah,
threatening letters, and eventually, I actually paid money to have an attorney to write back and just say no, that's not happening.
Oh, really? When I was back in my garage and I didn't know anything about licensing fees actually, so I printed for a sorority and got a cease and desist. That's how I learned about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
Well, how much is that to pay for being able to print for the fraternities and sororities? Is that something?
Oh, we don't do that.
I don't know what it is anymore, but
we said no.
We looked into it at one point.
I just told them no, I'm not paying you any, because they, like you said, they send out that letter that says, stop it, or it's just a threatening letter. I think they're just trying to. It seems like they're trying to extort money out of you, and because they said they saw something on our Facebook with a Greek letter or whatever.
That's exactly what happened to us. They saw it on our website, so I just took it down. I was like, well, cool. I'm going to keep printing this stuff. I'm just not going to post it on Instagram or Facebook or anything. We don't really do a whole lot of that, but just don't tell anybody. Be shady about it.
Don't put it on.
Dylan, this is recorded.
I don't care. Come after me.
We never print Greek stuff. I don't know about you.
Come through the front door. We'll greet you. Yeah, I don't care. Whatever. So, Amy, what did you do before printing?
Oh, it froze.
Oh yeah, why'd it freeze?
She's perma-smile right now. Hey, you're there.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
At least you were smiling the whole time. You weren't making a weird face or anything.
Do you think I need to kick the kids off the Xbox in order, because it keeps freezing?
Yeah.
The kids are on the Xbox. Does that affect it?
It's at Fortnite.
Okay, we're gonna try to ask them to get off for a second. They're gonna love that.
So we're gonna hear a lot of screaming in a minute.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. If it was my son, he'd be like punching holes in the wall.
God, this especially during COVID, and mine are 16 and 14. So luckily, I feel like that's a little easier than younger kids with this, but they're not going back to school in the fall, or they're going to online school to start.
Yeah.
Was that a choice? Did they give you a choice, or is that what happened with your district?
Yeah, not to start. To start with, everyone's going to go online, and then they'll reevaluate it, and they might do like a hybrid, and then you could have a choice to opt out if you wanted.
That's tough.
Yeah,
nuts.
It's messed up because they gave us that choice too, and they were like, "Do you want to just basically, you can use our curriculum and then just teach your kids at home, or you can like actually opt to homeschool your kids." But you have to like get approved, like what schooling you're going to do. Or you can send your kids to school, but they have to wear a mask all day, and they can only go every other day, and they're going to have to like sanitize every.
Oh man, I can't imagine. I mean, it's a bummer for everybody.
What did you choose to do?
I don't know. I think it's still freezing.
I just sold my kids on Craigslist.
They're off of it.
They like put them up for adoption.
No, just Craigslist ad.
Smart.
Yeah.
Were they crying at all, or?
I don't know. I gave them a couple of sleeping pills, put them in the back of a van.
That's how you homeschool?
Yeah, that's how I just bought this press.
I'm learning all kinds of tips on this show.
Yep, exactly. Sell your kids, get money for
equipment. Yeah. So
how'd you start?
So I was staying home with my kids. So this was a bit like 2009, 2010. And so I hadn't worked since they were born. And so I pretty much just somehow got the bug and was self-taught, trying to learn how to screen print. And this was either before YouTube, or at least I just didn't know about YouTube yet. So I was going to our local craft store on campus and just, building screens out of wood and stapling mesh across them. Just started really, really lo-fi at the kitchen table, and did that for a while, and was just printing little kids' clothes and selling them at the Saturday market. And then finally, I realized I really wanted to learn how to do the commercial screen printing. I didn't want to print my own designs anymore. I wanted to figure out how people do the next step. And I remember even there was one guy that worked at the art supply store who knew how to screen print. And so he learned it in art class, and he would help me. And I would one time saw the fear in his eyes, because I just kept coming in and trying to get information out of him. And I realized there must be a better way. And so finally found screenprinting.com and Ryanette's videos on YouTube. Yep. And so that kind of turned on a light bulb. And then I went like, oh, like this is how people do it. So just kept really growing from there. I mean, pretty slowly for several years. I was in the garage, so the business grew really slowly. And then 4 years ago, we moved into a shop and have employees. And that's kind of when it changed.
Did you ever have employees in your garage?
I did.
Yeah, I did too.
It's weird.
Yeah, we just had 2 ever. 1 part-time, 1 full-time. And, and it worked, but it was, like you said, it's sort of weird, because I thought it was, maybe it's more weird for them than it was for us.
Probably. Like using your bathroom.
I was going to say, is it weird because they have to go into your house to take a shit?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the person that I hired back then in the garage, my first employee, he still works for me, and that's I hired him when he was 16, and he's probably 22 now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool.
So he had come, or maybe he'd called and asked if I was hiring, said he wanted to learn how to screen print, and I was like, no, you don't know what this shop is. We don't have employees. This is just like me in my garage. But I told him to drop a resume by so that I could take a look. And on his resume, he worked at the YMCA with kids. And so summer was coming up and I had 2 kids at home and I wanted to work on this business. So I proposed to him that if he would help babysit the kids half the week, then the other half of the week I would teach him to screen print and we could work on it together. So he did it, and that's how it started out. And for years, he still would take my kids for the day and go to the beach and do stuff. So
that's pretty sweet
really
setup.
nice. Yeah.
Have you ran into any like big roadblocks from getting from the garage to where you're at now?
Yeah. I mean, maybe most of them were mental roadblocks. I was at the time when I ended up moving into the shop, I was single and working out of a garage, and it was just a scary leap. And, people, I think when people haven't seen you, and maybe because I was a woman and it's not very common, but when people haven't really seen you in that role, it seems really scary for everyone, including myself. And so I had people saying like, oh, you want to get this shop and the rent's $1,500, but is your business making an extra $1,500 a month? And I was like, no, but how am I ever going to grow if I'm here at my house and customers are coming and I have to tell people, where I live all the time. I don't like people coming over here all the time. So I took a leap, and then I was so glad that I did. It's worked out.
Have you noticed any differences? I mean, just with being a woman-owned business, like being anything any different? I don't think people treat me any differently or anything. I mean, the difference is that it's definitely a boys' club, this screen printing life. And I like being, getting to know people. I like being in the club. Like, it's been a really fun. Everyone's been really nice. And more I meet more and more women that screen print. So it hasn't been a hurdle except for maybe that mental hurdle. I mean, I had in the beginning, I was printing t-shirts for my kids' school, and I had been for a year or two. And then one of the moms was like, oh, I just thought this was you and your husband's business. And I was like, why would you think that? Like, that's never even been an option. So I think that those aren't necessarily obstacles, but it's just been different. Yeah. To me, it's a little weird just because like, I don't see, like, I have a lot of like women friends that do like just as good at everything, like businesses and everything. And people always say like women own this, and it makes a difference to me, but it's like everybody, I feel like everybody's on the same playing field. But for me, it's weird. I don't know if Oregon has this, but like here we have like, if you're a woman-owned business in New York, you get like way better like grants and all this other stuff than like anybody else. And do you like do any of that or take advantage of that? I know like the school specifically, like even our like local school, like there's certain orders they send us, but a lot of them they're like, well, we can get this fully paid for by the state if we use like a minority or a women-owned business. I'm like, doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
like,
I've heard about that, and I think I looked up the process once with the state of Oregon, but I didn't follow through with it. I guess I assumed it would be a lot of contract work for road crews or something that we don't really specialize in. So
I feel like it's just like state run or state funded organizations that they want to make sure that they're using, I guess, minority or business, like just different things. And I don't know, it's just, I run into that all the time where I'm like, oh, I'm ready for this next order. And they're like, we have to find, like, does your wife run your business? And I'm like, no. And it's like, oh, that's weird.
Yeah, that's kind of that. I mean, that's weird. I've noticed that sometimes other women-run businesses are happy to work with us. I don't think people really seek us out and say, like, I'm going to choose Threadbare over someone else because it's women-run. But, it's not bad for a business. I think sometimes that's important to people. But I also don't want it to be, like, the first thing. I mean, I want people to use us because we're good screen printers.
Exactly. You want to just want to be another printer. You don't necessarily need it to be like, we're just like a women.
When we moved from the garage to an actual retail spot, I noticed people treated us different or treated me different. Like customers, I should say. When we were out of the garage, it was oh, I want you, like people rallied behind us, they'd want to, I'm going to go find you some orders and this kind of thing. And then when we got to the retail spot, all of a sudden, then we were, these days especially, where everyone's treated like, they expect Target type service, like it's
Right.
tough, you're held to a different standard when you're in your garage than when you're at a retail shop. Did you notice that happened with you too when you moved?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I think people were more forgiving back then, and I have a lot of customers that still remember me from the garage days, and sometimes I'm shocked that they kept coming because I was a terrible screen printer. I'm still not a very good screen printer. I mean, that's why I hired people who are good at it. But yeah, like I just didn't know what I didn't know back then and made so many mistakes. But I think because I was in the garage, people, wanted to rally behind that and support the small guy. And so we got through it.
Yeah. Same here. It's weird. Like, it's weird how it works, especially now with turnaround and things like that, too, or shipping or something like that. It's just so tough to be measured against, just a giant organization, and we're just a small business, and
right.
But most people are pretty cool. Like our community, still we're local. Most of our business is local, and most people are pretty cool. But you get the ones that are demanding, I guess. I don't know. I just was curious if it happened to you too.
Yeah, definitely. Most of our business is local, and we've started to print for a few places a little bit farther away, a few shops in California, and like a yoga retreat that was in Australia this last winter. So it's been expanding, and I do feel like there's a different level of trying to prove ourselves when people don't already know us and get recommended by a friend here in town.
Gotcha. What is you're a graphic tee shop more than like a sports teams or that kind of thing? I mean, what's your focus?
Yeah, so we're all water-based screen printing. So that limits us from a lot of the sports teams and uniforms. So we don't do very much of that. We do a lot for running groups and breweries, a lot of dispensaries. But yeah, mostly graphic logos on t-shirts.
Did you pick water-based for economic reasons, or did you?
Well, I mean, I picked it because I learned from a hobby craft store, and that's the Speedball inks is, yeah. And so then once I finally learned that that's not how t-shirts get printed in the real world, I just decided to kind of stick with it because I knew it, I guess. And I hadn't ever worked in another print shop, and I didn't really know how things were supposed to get done. So just kind of incrementally stuck with it. And then at some point realized I should maybe make a decision to try plastisol, and then just didn't. And so decided to commit to it with the hopes of it being a more sustainable, eco-friendly option, which always learning. And I've come to learn that's not necessarily, but we're our goal for 2020 was to really just like double down on the sustainability thing, really learn so much more and educate ourselves on how we could be a better print shop. And I mean, we're not there yet by any means.
What have you found so far? Like, what have you put into place to be more eco-friendly?
Oh, I mean, we've tried to back off of using discharge inks so much. So part of that is just educating our customers on like, well, we do a lot of test prints and a lot of press checks so that we can say, this is how it's going to look. Or we could get you a bright red on a black shirt, but just so you know, it's going to be more toxic. So that, and then filtration systems in our sink. And then even just like, we eliminated paper towels and got reusable towels in our shop and a compost bin. And I mean, we've just been trying to do all the little things.
That's one thing that like we have in our shop, but it's not at all thinking about the environment. It's just because I always forget. And like, I always forget to get paper towels. So like in our bathroom next to the toilet, we have a hook, and I just always put like a random shitty shop rag shirt So people like dry their
Yeah.
hands off on this like shirt. And everybody knows like shirts don't absorb water very well. So it's just like a horrible rag to like wipe your hands off. It's always just because I
T-shirts
forget
are the
to
worst for trying to dry your hands.
but it's there. And I mean, whatever. Shake dry, I guess.
Well, our system right now is not great either. I mean, everybody has their own hook and a picture above their hook, and then dirty laundry, but I have to take that home and wash
Right.
it because we don't have a washing machine at home. So it's trying to do little things. I mean, we got a little bit sidelined on our sustainability goals with COVID just because focus has been elsewhere. But as we grow and like think about next purchases and equipment to buy, that's what we'll
me and you were both on the quest at the same time. I feel like with trying to find something other than poly bags for stuff.
Yeah.
And we were doing, you were doing the paper wraps, and that's what I was looking into as well. But again, COVID happened and I kind of stopped looking right now, but I would like to look into that more.
What's the paper wrap? What is that?
Well, Amy got further than I did, so she can tell you.
Well, we have these big rolls of unbleached paper. They're like 2 inches wide. A case of them was in my shop when I moved in. And then we've since ordered more, but we were just rolling shirts and then, so rolling them up and then putting a piece of paper and taping it, and then marking the size on there. And my goal with that was just to start showing our customers that we can offer that to them. And again, we got kind of sidelined. But.
Yeah. Well, it's just like us. Like we were doing a lot of like fulfillment for certain customers, and we were putting everything in like a poly mailer and sending it out. Just like you can buy cheap poly mailers, send them out. And then I got to see like, man, we're sending out thousands and thousands of plastic bags. And I was like, and in New York, they ban plastic bags too. Like you go to a grocery store, you can't get a plastic bag. So I was like, we need to get rid of these plastic bags. So I ended up finding some that were biodegradable, and they're just as good as far as like the bag, but they're like a little over twice as much as buying a poly bag. Like I don't remember what the cost is, but say I could buy 1,000 regular poly bags for like $40 something dollars or whatever. 1,000 biodegradable bags is like $108. So it's like over double the cost. But
we bought those too.
But now I'm also
shipping.
like, I feel better sending them out knowing that if they do get in a landfill, they'll break down. It's not like I'm sending out thousands and thousands of just plastic bags that go. But then again, we get these customers that come in that, we're like, here's a couple thousand piece order that I need, and I want everything folded and bagged and then put in their box and sent to them because they want to put it in a warehouse and have it picked. But I get that you want it bagged because you don't want it sitting in a warehouse and getting dust on it and everything else. Like it makes sense, but there needs to be a different, like there needs to be biodegradable versions of that I want to get. Yeah,
exactly. We have one customer that sends us a lot of Dakine backpacks that we print on, and we'll just and each backpack is individually wrapped in plastic, and we're just taking them out and having these huge piles of plastic in the shop. So I emailed them one time and asked them if they could stop doing that.
I was thinking the same thing. We got in, I don't want to say the company because I don't want to run through the mud, but we ended up ordering a bunch of shorts for a customer, and every single short, like it was a couple hundred pairs of shorts. It sucks.
Yeah.
Like even if it's not an environment issue, it sucks for the person counting in when every piece is folded in a plastic bag. You're like ripping it open, laying it out. And then you end up, like you said, like 2 trash cans full of plastic bags.
Yeah, we once did a shirt for a run, and we didn't buy the shirts. Somebody else, the event coordinator, did. They arrived here. There were 6,000 shirts individually bagged, and I had to pay. I think it was 3 people for over 3 days to even unbag them. And then what do you do with 6,000 bags? It was just the worst.
And they're probably not even recyclable.
No, they weren't.
Yeah,
no,
exactly. They're going right into the landfill.
But you're right. But what you were saying is true. Is you want to preserve the quality of the shirt that's in the bag.
You don't want the shirt to go to shit, but you also want to make sure that you're not just putting a piece of plastic in the ground. Like there probably is somewhere. Somebody's got to have biodegradable versions of that.
If not, let's make them.
Right.
There
And
you go.
become
That's how
trillionaires.
you get
Yeah.
rich. It'll be so easy.
And then all you do is sneeze on it and it just falls apart in your hands. And you're like, oh, shit.
So you have
So-
a press or one press or two presses? What do you have? What do you run?
We have two manuals.
And we were talking, that's how we got to talking about doing this podcast, is you were talking about when is the right time to get an auto. So tell me about your issues and your problem with why you think now's the time.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was asking you, Dylan, if you thought getting an auto would be a smart move for us, knowing the volume we do and the sales and stuff. And I think that, and I've asked a few different people, I think that the answer is yes, but we're limited because of the size of our shop.
Right.
So it's 1,500 square feet and we just couldn't fit an auto in there. It's a pretty narrow garage. And so then the problem is, well, we first have to move. That's going to be really expensive. Moving the equipment, paying more for a lease.
Well, with doing water based, what's your average shirt or like color count for an order?
You mean how many colors in the design?
Yeah.
Yeah, we try to keep it under 4. I mean, we can print up to 6. If we do most weeks print something 6
Because I know a
colors,
couple printers. I mean, there's a lot of printers that do water based that do like a lot of color counts, but there's a couple that I know specifically that they try to keep it under, like Jared Hennis. I was talking to him, and he's with his shop.
Yeah.
He tries to keep it under 3 all the time. I mean, I know that kind of limits you with customers, but what if you just got a small auto, like a 6 color?
Yeah, I still don't think that would fit. I mean, we've tried to map it out, and also just the expense of putting it in there, the air compressor, putting all that together, and then still wanting to move when our lease is up in a year and a half, or when we hopefully can. So I almost feel like, before we get an auto, we should move so that we're somewhere we could stay for 5 or 10 years.
Yeah. I guess it just depends on how much space you have or what you need. Do you have a place that you want to move to? Something in mind?
Yeah. I mean, I look at shops and warehouse space around town all the time. And, you guys were talking with In-House Prints about the idea of buying commercial real estate instead of renting. And that would be amazing. So, I mean, I think I've come to the conclusion that for now, because of the pandemic and everything, we should just sit tight and suffer it out a little bit longer. And then maybe a year or 2 from now, be in it to see where we're at to try to make any big moves.
Yeah. So I guess for other people that would listen to this, like why were you thinking about getting auto? Were you working late every night? Were you just tired of printing? Were you sales wise at a certain point where you just thought that's what you needed to do, or what was happening?
Yeah, we've had to turn away a couple of jobs because they were really needed an auto, like some simulated process jobs that we just wouldn't be able to get the right consistency on our manuals, especially in this 90-degree heat. We know our limits. And so I've sent a few jobs that are, either complicated artwork or high volume, like a couple thousand garments, up to a different shop that helps us out and will help print on their auto for us. So that's a nice relationship to have. But, I mean, going to conferences, talking to other print shop owners, it just seems like you're not really even in the game until you have an auto. And I want to keep growing. I want to keep everybody employed and save their wrists and their backs. And it feels like we're probably there if we could.
Yeah. I guess it just depends on what niche you're in. You know what I mean? You can be a print shop that does certain orders. Like if you're just doing, breweries and stuff in your local town and you're more than capable, maybe you should stay manual. But if you were trying to, like you were saying, like branch out to, printing for people in Australia or, across the US or whatever, like it's only going to grow at that point. You're not going to just be doing local. You're going to just every year it's going to get bigger and bigger. It's like with us, like we've never been a local shop. We've always done national stuff. And it's like, you can't stop the growth to a degree. You know what I mean? Because if you print for somebody in California and they tell 10 people, it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Like if you're just doing local, it's like once you get to a point where even if you print it for every business in town, like you're still only going to print for every business in town. Like, so I feel like if you reach to that every year, you're just going to get bigger no matter what happens.
Well, I think that's what it feels like is, that there's only a limit to so many breweries and the dispensaries and small businesses in this town. And I mean, I drive around and see stuff we print all over, and on every block is somebody we print for. So in order to grow, it seems like we need to work on expanding outside of our town and work on even other, I don't know how you do that exactly, but if the idea is to keep growing, it seems like you would have to get an auto.
Yeah. Do you guys have like a sales team, or do you just have like a customer service team that just does emails?
That's me for the most part. We have 3 people at the front of the house. So myself, graphic designer, and then Jem, who helps us with ordering and counting and shirts and lots of things. And then we have 3 people in the back printing. And then we have another guy, Buzz, who he's a great printer and he prints for us. Yeah. He prints for us and he's really a talented printer, but he's been helping me more with emails, which has been amazing to finally not just respond to every person that contacts us, because I was getting really burned out on that.
Yeah. No, I was in the same boat with that, and I'm glad I'm not doing that every single day. So do you hunt down stuff, or do you hit people up, or do you just answering the emails that come in every day?
Everything we've done has been word of mouth or come through our website. I tried to do more of that at the beginning of this year, start reaching out to some bigger companies that I knew of that were local. I think with that, I've been afraid to step on anyone else's toes, because there's one brewery that I've printed for since the beginning, and it's been such a great loyal customer. And they told me about another print shop in town that just constantly sends sales reps in there and tries to get their business. And so and it's a big shop. So I've been like, you guys print for the U of O, like just give me the little breweries. And so I haven't wanted to do that to anyone else, I guess.
Yeah. We kind of have a rule here where like, I know a lot of printers, like just from being in an industry, like I said, we print stuff all over the place. Like if I go to a place and they tell me they already have a print shop and I know that print shop, I back off. Mm-hmm. But if that company contacts me, like if I don't contact them and they contact me, then I feel like it's fair game, because if they're contacting me, obviously there's something about their current printer they're not happy with. Like it could be somebody I know really well, and I'm kind of like, but they obviously don't like something. So,
and that's what sales should be, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like, I think, if we could do a better service for you, then that's what they would like.
I contact every customer you post on Instagram, Dylan, and I tell them that we're going to definitely do it better.
We've had that.
And cheaper.
We've had that.
You've had people do that to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't post a whole lot of our customers on.
I do. I don't care.
But
I do too, actually.
You do.
I just feel like we do a good job for people, and if they're the kind of customer who's just looking for somebody that's cheaper, I'm probably better off not having them as a customer anyway.
It's true.
That's true.
So if they want to, go to the other guy, they're going to find out the reason why he's cheaper, and then they'll come back.
Yeah, that happens a lot, actually. You'll print for somebody for a long time. Something that happens too is we print for somebody and then it goes away, and then maybe a year later it shows back up, but it's not through them directly. It's through a contractor or something like that.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but
that's kind of why, like, when we started, we were doing a lot of bands, and it was like, you could let them sleep in your house when they come through, like on tour, and they'll be like grateful for that, but they will leave you the next day if there's another shop that will do it for 10 cents cheaper. Like, So we try to get out of the band game. It's the same reason why we don't really do a lot of schools or anything like that, because I feel like it's the same thing. Like you could bust your ass for a school and get like it's always the shittiest orders. It's like Joanne's son grew 2 inches and now the shirt doesn't fit him anymore within the last week and he needs one more shirt, or like they forgot something or whatever. And it's like you always work harder for those orders, and then the committee members who gave you the order, somebody else comes in and they're like, oh, my brother's cousin's nephew prints in his basement and he wants to do them. And then they go to him. And it's like, there's no loyalty. It's like, we just go to who's cheaper or who's more convenient, or we don't want to hurt this person's feelings. So it's like, I feel like I've stepped back from that over the years, and I've been like, let's just go to people where like I can make like handshake deals, or like I can make friends with this person that I'll have for life, you know what I mean, and help them out. So I feel like that's kind of where we've tried to get to, is all of our customers are people that we know really well. So
that's kind of food for thought for me, actually, because I'm always, I think part of never having worked in another shop before, and until recently not even talking to other screen printing shop owners, I always have a sense of like not quite knowing what I'm doing. And so the idea of like always needing to get bigger and get an auto in order to be successful, like, I mean, you're giving me pause, because actually the customers we do have now care about working with us because they're loyal.
I think that's way more important than trying to just get bigger. Like, I feel like getting bigger isn't the goal. It should be to just like have consistent, like good customers. And like I have customers too that like we have tons of orders every week, but there's customers that I have that I've had for 8-10 years that like I give them priority over everybody, because they might be big customers, but they're also like extremely loyal customers. So like I have a normal turnaround, say it's 10 to 15 business days or whatever. If I have this brewery that's huge that like we love them, they love us, and we're like really good friends, I'll do their stuff in like 4 days. Like I'll be like, hey, let's get it done, get it out, give it to them, because they're great people. And we have a ton of people that we do that for. But if you're just like this person that came in as hunting for just random orders, you're going to go on regular turnaround. Like, not to be a dick, but it's like, you're like, you got to treat your loyal, good customers well. And I feel like just trying to be busy isn't the goal. I feel like it's just like get the customers that you want and stuff like that, and
build those relationships.
Yeah.
I think it's also about, as far as getting bigger goes, is work-life balance, because for a while there, I was okay with me if I was here for 12 hours a day, and Saturdays included, Sundays even, it didn't matter. Like that was just, I was all in, no matter what, I was going to be here, we were going to be printing, and that was awesome. But all of a sudden, at a certain point, I was like, wait a second, I'm like, this is all I do. And yeah, I loved it. But at the same time, I want to go on a walk, or I want to do something else on a Saturday than be stuck here, because I've sacrificed a lot of Saturdays. And I'm glad I did that. I don't regret it. I'm not saying I do, but at a certain point you have to decide, well, is it worth it? Do I want to be bigger, or am I happier just at this size, Because you all of a sudden I think just one automatic would maybe change. You necessarily wouldn't have to hire more people. You could have the same amount of people. You're not going to have to. It's not like this automatic going to replace an employee or anything. It would just make the current employees' lives better,
Right.
Like, and also make your business, if you wanted to, maybe you'd get out of the shop at 5 instead of staying till 8 because you're trying to finish up an order. Having an auto could change your life that way. Not necessarily growing your, total sales or something.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it would help us turn jobs around. Yeah, better for employees. I want to keep the same team that we have, or the same amount of people, but just get more efficient and be able to have better equipment and turn things around a lot faster.
Yeah. And it's like me and Andy have talked about this too, is it's like we invest in these better equipment, because it gives you a better quality product, because it's more consistent, but it's also like for your employees, like one of the main reasons why you buy like an auto reclaim isn't necessarily for, I feel like it's 50-50. Yeah, you have a ton of screens you have to get out, but it's also like that's the job that you have the most turnaround for, because nobody wants to sit there and scrub screens all day long. So if you get a machine that
Quality
they
of
can
life.
just feed it into, like quality of life, it's like you slow that process down. Like you keep people now and they're okay with that job or,
Right.
And you
whatever.
move that employee that was on that job or on that task in that role, and you take them, just like you said, all of a sudden they're helping you with emails or whatever. Maybe they're on a press assistant.
Or watching your kids.
Yeah. We
Exactly.
wear lots of hats around here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does seem like that more money, more problems kind of thing. The more I talk to bigger print shops, it's, and the one time that we did a contract type job, we don't have an auto. It doesn't make sense for us to do that. We kind of did this hybrid thing for a third party, and it was just a nightmare. It was like so many problems. Didn't enjoy working with that customer. They didn't really appreciate who we were and what we were about. And so I guess I should, realize that's not the direction we're trying to go in.
Yeah. I don't want to bash it because there are a lot of shops that do contract that's their thing. Like that's what they want to do, but I wouldn't use that as a goal. I wouldn't try to do contract.
Yeah.
I would try to do as much direct to customer as possible. I feel like a lot of people step into contract because they're scared that they don't have a lot of clients and it's slow or whatever, and they get contract and then they end up spending more time trying to do a good job for the contract for the other company. Like you're basically making that other company look really good and your name's not even on it. And then all the customers that you have that are loyal to you go on the back burner sometimes because you're like, shit, I got to get this order out in 2 days or they're never going to work with us ever again. And then the other company that is directly tied to your name, like gets thrown into the bus because you're like, oh, I can do that in a couple days or whatever.
So you guys don't do contract work?
No.
We do.
Yeah.
Just a small percentage. And I wouldn't call it contract. There's a couple of accounts, maybe. We have a handful of customers that are, I guess, contract-based customers. But a few of them, maybe 3, I'd say, are more just partners. We have a daily almost relationship with them. So we're getting orders daily. And that is so there's like a certain point of contact as a person that we're dealing with. And that relationship is good because we've built it over time and it's a win-win, and so it works.
Right.
But like, I know shops that are just contract only, and kind of like what Dylan says is that that's tough, and also
you're fighting for pennies.
Yeah. It's
you know
tough.
what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like you're saying, Andy, like we've done that before where like we're one of the bigger shops around and there's a lot of tiny shops in the city, like near us or whatever. And a lot of them just want to be like a storefront and don't actually do any printing. And they want to send the printing to us. Those are people that I'm like, okay, like we'll print for once in a while because it's smaller orders, whatever. I give them most of the time, like what we want is we want to be able to give them our pricing. You know what I mean? We want to be like, this is our contract price list. But at a certain point you hit a tier where it's like, they're a broker or they're a huge company that wants to do contract with you. You have no say over the price. They're like, this is what I'm paying, take it or leave it. And that's why I feel like a lot of people fall in the hole of is they're like, oh, I want the work because these companies will give you a lot of work, but it's like, is it worth it? Like you're making literally like 5 cents a shirt or something. And it's like, if that was our job, we would be making like $4 a shirt. Like,
yeah, I'm in the middle of working out a similar relationship and contract with a company. It's a school. It's like a spirit wear company, and they're not local, but they really wanted the water base, and they weren't finding it, I guess. And so I explained that I don't do contract printing, but we've worked out a hybrid. It's kind of in the middle, and they're guaranteeing us this much. Well, with schools being what they are right now, it's a little up in the air, but they're guaranteeing us this much work. And so then I'm giving them a price that's much lower.
I would just make sure that it's your price. Like if it's something you're comfortable with, like you're right. Like just don't let them give you a price list and be like, this is what I'm paying. Cause then it's like,
yeah, they came to me with what they were paying before. And I was just like, oh, manually printing, we will just lose money. That doesn't work. So we met in the middle.
If I ever discount pricing, which is rare, until maybe now, COVID, we're a little more aggressive with quoting. But if we were to ever discount pricing, I've always just had to justify it. If like somebody's at the counter and they're like, hey, there's 500 shirts and oh, we want to come here and it's 50 cents less. If we're in overtime, I'm not going to discount. I'm just like, look, there's just no reason for me to discount. But if let's say we're in standard time, then there has to be a reason. So for example, like if let's say they're bringing art to me, and so we're not going to spend 2 hours on art. It's just done and it's ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then that's a reason I can say, okay, fine. Well, there's 50 cents or something, you know what I mean? Not just willy nilly. Okay, fine. We'll discount it $1. Like there has to be a reason for me to justify. And so I think that's important when like that customer who's reaching out to you that says, we want water-based and this is a school or whatever. Maybe they're taking some sort, and you're going to discount your price a bit. Maybe they're doing something for you that you don't have to, like maybe they're dealing with the school in whatever capacity. You know what I mean?
And I feel like doing water-based, you should even charge more for that just because it's a harder thing. Like they're coming to you because they can't get anywhere else.
Well, one thing they're doing is they're also ordering all the garments and sending them to us. So then I worked out with them how many extras and what happens if there's a manufacturer defect, what happens if we do a misprint. We worked out all those details ahead of time, which I think is good. And I mean, I think in the end, I feel good about the pricing if it ends up being the amount of volume and again, during COVID, like we're trying to get creative.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of like the Dream 100 list?
No.
That's kind of what I've done for pretty much since we started.
Tell us about it, Dylan.
It's a thing.
It sounds amazing.
So anyway, I've been doing it on my own. Like I didn't know it was a thing. And then like maybe 4 years ago, I found a video that was like Dream 100 list. And I was like, all right, like what is this? And I was, trying to better myself and all this other stuff. Well, anyway, like I found this and then he described how he did his business as this Dream 100 list. And I was like, shit, that's basically what I've been doing. But he gave me like a couple of key things that was like, made me get into it more and realize that this is like a real sales tool. Basically, it's like, it doesn't have to be a list of 100 companies, but it's like make a list of people you want to work with. You know what I mean? So say like for me, I'm into like motorcycles and I'm into like comic books and like all these other things. Like there's companies out there that I really want to work with that to me seem a little bit unobtainable. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, I don't know if they would work with me, whatever. So the thing is to make a list of those companies and then on that list, make like points of contact that you can find for those companies. So it's like, all right, I found out that this person's email address that goes with this, or I found a shipping address that goes with this or whatever. And then it sounds kind of like you're kind of being a stalker, but like I said, if you're into that company anyway, you know what I mean? Don't like just go find random companies and be like, I'm going to work with them. It's like find ones that you really want to work with. So like you're already following them on social media. You're already listening to their podcast or their YouTube channel or whatever. And it's like basically find those points of contact. And then when something arises, like send them an email and be like, hey, I really love what you do. Talk to them about themselves. Like, don't just be like, hey, do you need t-shirts? I want to print them to you. Like, be like, hey, I listened to that one podcast where you were talking about this. It really, struck a chord with me. Start a conversation. It doesn't at all have to be about printing. And then just like get the ball rolling. And then like, if you're following that person and then you see that they're like, oh, I really like this design someone sent me. You could send them a message and be like, hey, I saw that you had this design. I would love to print it for you, whatever. And then like get the ball rolling again. So the guy that was doing the Dream 100 basically said it's like X amount of times a point of contact or whatever, where like you might make like a mailer box. And we've done this before where you have a box where we have like 2 of our upstate tees, like a mug, a hat, whatever else, just some cool stuff in there. And then we send it to them and it's like a personalized note in there, like, hey, we really want to work with you, whatever. And then we've gotten some like really big customers that way. And that we've had for years because they know that we're interested in them because we like their company and we like their values and not just like trying to sell them. So like one example of like one of the companies that we did stuff for was that this bar saves lives. They're the Kristen Bell's company. She makes those granola bars, or they sell them at like, that was one of those things where like I was interested in what they were doing. And I followed them. I sent them a message, and I sent them a message on Instagram that was just like, hey, like, I really love what you're doing with this thing. I saw that you posted, I think at the time they had tote bags only. It was like their first piece of merch or whatever. They were like, oh, we got tote bags now. And I was like, hey, like, I talked to them about their thing, and I was like, I really love to work with you. I'd really love to print some t-shirts. And then they responded. They were like, hell yeah, let's, like, we don't know anything about t-shirts. Like what? And right then my mind was like, I know a lot about t-shirts. And it was like, you know what I mean? It was like, yeah, give me your address. Like, I will right now order you samples of like Bella and like all these other things. Like, oh, do you want like tank tops? Do you like ladies tees? I just immediately that day ordered samples from the distro, had them shipped directly to them. They got them 2 days later, and their minds were blown that like we were on it with customer service. You know what I mean? And then they've ordered a couple times from us where like it's a big order. You know what I mean? And we did exactly what they asked for. We helped them out, and I just feel like that's a good way to get like really big clients. And you're like, people all the time are like, how'd you get to work with this person? And it's like, well, I did the work. And
Right.
That's the thing is like, if you get one of those people, they know a lot of people. So then those people tell a lot of their important friends or people that own big companies and stuff. And then they just like goes crazy after that. But so I would say to try that.
I think that's, it's almost sounds cheesy to say it, but like trying to manifest it has worked, you know, for us, like some of the cool, hip, creative type businesses or coffee shops in our town. And I've thought, oh, I'd love to print for them. And then we do.
Yeah. You just think it and it happens.
Yeah. I need to be a little more proactive. And back to what Andy was saying about quoting too, and you were saying that you stick to your prices. One of the reasons I'm trying to get Buzz and anyone else to help me with quoting is because I constantly give discounts.
Oh, you do? You said you constantly do?
Constantly.
Because when somebody asks, you're saying that the customer replies back after your quote and says, it's too high? Or how do you go about it?
You just feel bad?
I think, oh, maybe my prices are too high, or this is a nonprofit. Maybe or like, oh, you know, I really like these guys, so we'll just take $2 off here.
Well, I guess that's fair. I mean, if it's for a good cause or a nonprofit. So we're asked constantly, I'm sure you guys are too, for sponsorships, right? So they'll come in and, hey,
Right.
we're doing 100, we need 100 shirts for an Alzheimer's walk or whatever, autism walk. And since we're asked so often, you know, I think some people, when they come in, they think that we're going to give, we have the ability to give the whole shirt and all the printing at no cost, you know, but wait a second, you know, we've got employees and rent and all these things. So what we came up with is I have two signatures actually, and that we use to reply to those either at the front counter or in emails. And one of them is we don't sponsor anything but things that are for a charity, right? And we don't sponsor like a baseball team. But the other one, and so it's a no, but the other one that's a yes is that we'll sponsor everyone. And our deal is that we'll go on the back of your shirt. So most of the time they have logo sponsors on the back of the shirt, and we'll have logo inclusion for Shirt Kong, and the back of your shirt is free. And so the front of you come in and buy the shirt just like normal, and buy the front just like normal. And then we're going to print all those logos on the back for free. And that way we can spread the love to, you know, everyone who asks us for a sponsorship, instead of just picking one or two and saying no to the rest. You know what I mean? So we discount in that way.
That's a good way to do it too, because then your logo can be the full bag, and then everybody else's tiny logos.
Why is yours so big? You know,
well,
everyone's so small.
We printed it for free. What'd you expect?
Yeah, but
those back prints are always one color, so
we always do. And some people they'll say that we want more colors. But like, wait, no, you're trying to. This is to raise money, right? Well, make it one color, you know, because you're trying to make the most out of this whole.
Well, you make Shirt Kong in white, and then you make all the other logos in just a shade lighter than the shirt color.
Transparent ink.
Right.
Well, having somebody that can help you quote though is, so there's 3 people that well, not so there's somebody embroidery, but as far as screen printing, there's 3 people that can quote all day. I do a little bit, but you're as the leader, as the owner, you have so many other things going on, right? And big picture stuff, but also, yeah, you do operations too. We're a small business, and so I'm stuck in some operations management. But I think that with quoting, and we do so much of it, that having somebody that does it every day, that's their job, and they can spend the right amount of time, instead of me being like, God, I got to go do this, or I got to go do that, and then I rush this quote out or do whatever. You have somebody that has the time to do a really good job of it. Not saying that you don't, but when I'm rushed, I always do a less. I kind of cheat, and I go fast as possible. And we have signatures for quotes, by the way, which you probably have set up too. And so it automatically loads in everything that we need, except we just change out that it's one color or whatever. And they're really good at it. They're fantastic. These girls, that they're so used to quoting that they know the pitfalls, and they can follow up properly. And then the person calls and asks for them.
Right.
They're fantastic at it. And having somebody that's dedicated to that instead of you doing all of that is a huge move.
Well, even just up until last summer, I didn't even have a price list because we're small and I'm the only one quoting. It was all in my head, and I would research blank costs and then quote. So much researching blank quotes over and over. So last summer I got together a price list finally. And then, recently we built in a whole bunch of templates into a couple of us that do quoting into the emails. So that template thing you can use on Google. So there's a mask one, a general t-shirt quote, we have 6 or 7 of them, and that's been huge. Why didn't I do that sooner?
It's funny you said that. We used to do for years. I used to have it all in my head. Quote, if somebody called up and said, "Hey, I want 500 shirts, 3-color front," I would just know. But every once in a while, it was a little bit different. And then you have, "Hey, my friend came in here and got the same thing for it, and why am I paying more?" And so I was like, crap, But I think having a price list that's easy, that you can train somebody on in a day or something like that, is definitely important. Glad you did that. But
now, are your guys' price list? Are your guys' price list solid? If I'm picking this shirt, this many colors, is that the price? Or are you constantly looking at what the shirt cost is, and then this is a print price?
You asking me?
No, I stick
Both
to it.
Because we used to do that for years, where we had, because that's how I learned to do it when I was at another print company when I first started, is they just had straight up once a year they would change their pricing. They would be like, all right, a Gildan 5000, 1-color front, 2-color back, this is a price. And then I felt for so long, even when I was there, I was kind of you would find out, you would actually look at the price of a hoodie or something and be like, we're losing money on this. And they're like, well, yeah, it's just what it is. So we've always done it where this is all the pricing, this is what we want to make on every print. So every time we quote somebody, we go to whatever wholesaler we're using, S&S or Broder or whatever, and we'll be like, all right, Bella Canvas 3001 CVC is, say it's $344. Then we have this pricing over here that we're okay, it's a 2-color front, 3-color back. This is what we're adding for printing. Put them together. That's the price. Because cotton changes so much. The price of t-shirts on the website changes I feel weekly. So I just don't want to screw
I should
listeners
probably pay
money.
better attention to that. Actually, I didn't realize they changed that much. I mean, we have kind of a tier system set up for good, better, best. And we use a lot of the same brands. We use the 3001 or the 3001 CVC a lot. And we use a lot of All Made and AS Color. And then some Gildan. We print for some construction workers and contractors, and we, we'll print on Gildan or Hanes. We'll print on whatever people want, but we try to steer them towards some of the fashion brands. And so we usually start with that. So I mean, we've got it set up into those categories, and I don't look at the pricing enough.
Yeah, I would just check. I would check periodically. I mean, it doesn't have to be every day, but I would check maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks and make sure the price is the same, because it definitely changes. Especially, I feel hoodies the most. You could be the price of this hoodie is $10, and then a month later you're like, oh, it's $11.49. So for that whole month or whatever, you were $1.49, losing $1.49 on all those hoodies because you were going off of the old pricing.
For us, it doesn't matter because the matrix, our pricing matrix for screen printing,
the actual matrix, right?
Yeah.
Like Neo.
It is printing only, and so we have the printing cost, and then we go look on SNS or whoever has the shirts, and then we take that shirt. If it's a T-shirt, it's times 1.2, and if it's a fleece, it's 1.5. And so, like if you have, you just mentioned that the shirt was $344. We would take that 344 times 1.2, and we raise it 20% because we're guaranteeing the shirt. And so, and I'll show a customer that I don't care if the customer sees that the shirt's $3.44 because, and I'll say that we mark it up 20% because we're guaranteeing that shirt. So if you come back here, it doesn't matter if you come back here in a month or in 3 months, if the print washed out or the shirt's torn, I don't care. We're going to fix the shirt. And so that 20% is for the markup, is for guarantee. And you mentioned earlier, like if the contract comes to you and gives you the shirts, they ship the shirts to and dropped at your dock or whatever.
You're not liable for those.
I'm not liable for those shirts. So I didn't buy them. And if there's a hole in them, it's not my problem, And so
Right.
that's why we mark it up. And so that way, it's really easy because there's so many different shirt pricing. Like you said, it fluctuates and there's so many different shirts. There's so many SKUs that in general, there's the most popular, there's really popular ones that we use a lot, but sometimes somebody comes in and says, I want a long sleeve, 3001, whatever it is, 3501 or something. How do you know what that color long sleeve is? And so just look it up, 1.2, add your screen printing pricing.
Yeah. So we're basically doing the same thing. It's just you're adding the 1 point whatever to the blank.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
But
so
I don't
just
know.
Keep an eye on that, I guess.
Yeah, don't get stung.
Well, this is going to show, I'm almost embarrassed to say it, but we, years ago when it was just me, I made the pricing so that I just give the customer one price, and that includes the shirt and the printing, and we don't charge any setup fees. And so I've stuck with it because I like the simplicity of it. And after I read Steve Jobs' book, about building the iPhone and, being able to deliver something to the customer that is a nice, neat little package was really inspiring to me. And I mean, it's worked, I think, but because of that, we have our grids, we have the matrices, and we have the grid set up, but I think that, at some point it might make more sense for us to actually price out shirts and printing costs and then maybe setup fees.
It just adds up. Like you don't think about it. Like you might be comfortable at work, you're getting by whatever, but if you really sit down and look at like what you're making per shirt, or you do the math, like there's people out there that have like full plug and play things of being like, how many employees do I have? How many people on press? Like, what is this time? It'll tell you exactly like how much money you should make. Like that stuff's crazy when you really get into that. A lot of people don't. They just look at like 5 competitors and they're like, as long as I'm 5 cents cheaper, that's what I'll go with. And that's when you really when you really screw yourself over, is because you're just trying to compete and they're trying to compete. And then you guys are just whittling prices down to nothing. And then,
well, I know we're not the cheapest in town and we don't try to be the cheapest in town, but as the business owner, that number crunching is not my strength. And so
it's not mine either.
I mean, if I had my goal would be to work myself into just doing marketing and branding and some
that's
sales
exactly what I'm doing.
Talking to people.
Yeah,
but this like nitty gritty is sort of, I need some help probably.
Yeah. I just feel like if you do the math and figure out, what I said, like if you are constantly adjusting for like the shirt cost. So if you're doing like what me and Andy do, where we take the shirt cost and then we add our price, you're almost guaranteed not to screw yourself. You know what I mean? Like you're never going to lose money. You're getting what you're supposed to get. Yeah. The big deal is to make sure you hold up your end of the bargain with the customer. Like Andy said, if something goes wrong, you fix it. Like, no, like, let me try to weasel my way out of it. It's like, you'll keep that customer no matter what the price is, as long as they know no matter what, you're going to take care of them. But it's just the extra dollars of like paying attention to shirt cost, I feel like is big.
Couple things. I'm just like you in that we don't charge screens. That's all included. So
Oh,
when I
okay.
give a customer a price, it's like, that's the price. It includes the shirt and the printing. It's just that when we're calculating it, I separate the two, and then give them the final just price, it includes all inclusive price. But, and because I used to charge screens, but when we did that, people thought for whatever reason that they owned the screens or we kept the screens or something. I had people both to come here and say, hey, can I get my screens? And first of all, I was like, what are you talking about? And then second, then they're like, well, I came here a year ago and I paid screen charges. Can't you just print them? I don't get it. Like, why am I paying them again? And so
Right.
I got rid of them altogether because it was just too much trouble. I don't know, Dylan, did that happen to you? Did you used to charge screen? Yeah. And
People do that all the time. Like, can you mail me my screens with my order? I'm just like, how do I tell them?
Yeah. So yeah, dude, all-inclusive price is definitely
our favorite is when we used to have pricing on the website. We don't have pricing on the website anymore. We would get people who would be like placing an order, and they'd be like, yeah, we want to get these second location prints. Like, what brand is second location? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, they thought the price, like, second location would be like $1.14. And they're like, yeah, I want those shirts. Like, I want that second location print. I'm like, that's for the second location on your shirt.
That's awesome.
Dude, we've had that happen multiple times. And it's like, how? Like, how are you a functioning human being right now? Like, also, our other favorite, there's a bunch of favorites that we have in the office that constantly happen from customers. A is when they call Gildan's Goldmans. It happens all the time. They're like, I'll have those Goldman 5000s. I'm like, oh my God, that's not a thing. And then, oh shit, I just had the other one too. Oh, it's when people do like a mistype on the computer. Instead of calling it shirts, they call it shits. Like, can I get 150 shits?
Shit Kong.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's happened. It happens.
Yeah.
Dylan, what do you do when somebody calls and asks you for art? Like, hey, can I get my art from that job? Because usually they say maybe something like, oh, I'm going to get some stickers or something like that. I say, get that art.
I say, and then I hang up the phone.
Perfect.
Even if they've paid the design fee?
No, usually if they are a customer that came to us and paid for a design, like they had one of our designers make it for them, they paid the fee. If they want the artwork, I send it to them. Like, they paid for it. Yeah, it sucks. In your mind they're probably taking it to another printer, but they paid for that art. There's no way for me to argue with them. But honestly, in the back of my mind, I know they don't know how resolution works and how the size is. So I almost always send it to them at 72. And I'm like, let the next printer fuck around with it. Like,
but if they haven't paid for it, then what?
If they haven't paid for it, then I'm usually just like, I don't know. Like I said, it depends on the customer. Like, almost always I'll send it to them as a low resolution. I'll be like, yeah, here it is. And I'll send it, 72 DPI by like 10 inches wide or something. So when they open it on their computer, it looks big. But then when I know they're going to take that complicated print that's got like halftones and shit in it, and they send it to their printer at 72, that other printer's going to be like, fuck, this isn't the right thing. And then that person doesn't want to come to us and be like, actually, I need the 300 DPI artwork. And you're like, how did you know that that's what you need? And they're like, oh, I'm at another print shop. It's like,
I had that last week where somebody was sending us their mock-up from a different print shop. And I was like, I can't do it with this. And I also can't ask them. So you can ask them, but I'm not going to.
Yeah.
Back when we used to do a lot of bands, we'd get that all the time, where obviously they were sending us the preview from the designer, not the actual artwork. So they were a cheap ass shitty band, went to a good artist, said, hey, I want to get this. The artist sends them a preview and then says, hey, I'll send you the final artwork when you pay the bill. And obviously they never paid the bill. They just took that preview and sent it to us. And they're like, here's our artwork. And it's like, nah, dude, I know exactly what you're doing and it's not going to work. And with bands, it was always like complicated, like super fine detail stuff. And I'm like, this is not going to work. And then the band's always like, just print it. And I'm like, dude, shit in, shit out. Like, you give me shitty artwork, I'm going to print it with all of that fucking sawtoothing. And they're like, whatever. And then we print it and they get it and they're like, these look terrible. I'm like, dude, I told you straight up, like, this is not the right size artwork. You said print it anyway. Whatever. Like, sorry. That's why we don't do that anymore. Like, I don't want to deal with bottom feeder customers that are just trying to get everything as cheap and as fast as possible. It's like, I just got away from that market completely.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
do you guys have a DTG machine?
Dylan's going to buy a couple of them, I think. That's what he's got.
You know,
so I think we figured that out last week, didn't we?
Yeah, whatever.
You change your mind?
No, I just don't know yet. You know what, Andy? I talked to you in confidence thinking that you're going to help me be a bigger person, you know, and I'm trying to grow with you, okay? I thought we were brothers. And every chance you get, you throw me under the fucking bus.
Dude, all I said was I gave you my opinion and then you didn't listen to it.
Your opinion was don't do this. That's not an opinion.
Well, no. So we used to have a DTG. We had we had one and it worked pretty good. But for us, we're screen printers and I don't want to bore everybody with it, but we never really could make money from it. Now, that's not to say, maybe that's just because of it's, for us, for our shop, for our business model, it was wrong. I think it's right for print on demand and that kind of shop that's like, maybe they got a great location. People are always in them and buying shirts, or they have a website that's, constantly, that has multicolored jobs that has a lot of traffic, then it makes sense. But for us, it made zero sense and it distracted us. We spent time doing art. We spent time messing with the DTG machine, trying to get it to look perfect and doing test prints, all this kind of stuff. And eventually said, it's not for us. And we went through that for 5 years actually though, before we got rid of it.
Yeah. Well, I was in talks of getting one and I, was kind of trying to pick Andy's brain about it, but it was just kind of like, we've been doing more and more fulfillment for like bigger customers. And there's certain jobs that come through that like I said, we're still trying to test the waters with it. We're not by any means saying we're like a fulfillment shop where we're offering it to every customer or whatever. We're literally only doing it for certain customers that we know will do well. Like we know they'll sell stuff well, but sometimes they have ideas or they have stuff that comes in that they're like, it's definitely meant for digital. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
What I was saying before was for us, it's like a comedian or whatever. And they'll be like, they'll have a joke. They'll have a shirt they want to get out quick. Most of the time it's like a picture of a person's face and it says something around it or whatever. And it's like, you don't know how many you'll sell. Even if it's like 50 to 100, it's like, if I could just, when the order came in, put it on DTG, printed it off, send it out. But like Andy's saying too, like the printer in me wants to make sure it's quality all the time. Like I want to make sure that if it's going out, that shirt's going to last, whatever. I'm doing research right now. I'm not saying I'm going to get all into digital and all this other stuff, but I'm doing the homework right now of, over the past 10 years, the biggest thing with digital has been the white, like the underbase. Like, is it going to hold? Is it going to fall off the shirt? Is it whatever? I feel like they're starting to get to the point now where they're actually putting out some pretty good quality prints. So, like I said, I don't know if I want to get one right now, but it's something I might do in the future where I might get a cheaper, like an Epson or whatever, digital printer, not like a, the big M&R Maverick or
that's a good idea.
Whatever.
Just get the cheapest DTG machine that's out there.
It's not what I'm saying,
but
I'm saying
Andy's
the one
selling one.
I gave ours away actually, but the one we talked about Matt last. I think it's coming out tomorrow. Is the hybrid? That's what I'm excited about. Is actually printing.
Well, that's what I was saying. Is if I can get that and then get into the market a little bit and then get my toes wet, and then when I get digital squeegee in like 4 years, then I'll be in that market and I'll know more about digital. I'll be more educated. I won't just be jumping into it.
Well, the reason I ask is because it's all anyone talks about in the industry. And if we can't do an auto, we could probably fit a DTG machine. So I wonder about it, even though the printer in me also hates the idea. But we don't do fulfillment, but what I get is like 3 times a week, somebody calling and asking to put a picture of their dog on their t-shirt. And so I just always turn those away. And I wonder if that is something.
As I said, if you have the market for it, but
yeah,
it just depends, I guess. But yeah, the big thing with the industry right now is digital, just because everybody's trying to talk about basically the hybrid stuff. Or like I said, digital is getting to the point where it's closer to screen printing quality. So for us, it's like talking more about people that have had the autos. It's just, where's the industry going to go in 5 to 10 years? Is it going to be more digital? Is it going to be more printing? The thing that basically everybody's talking about is that DTG needs to be looked at as a tool, not a replacement. Like it needs to just be another tool in your tool belt to be like, yeah, we can print, we can screen print 95% of these orders, but to a point, if you're doing stuff like you're always doing 12, 14 color prints, like these crazy prints, like it's more cost effective and more efficient, and probably it might even be a better looking print as if you did the white underbase on press and then did a digital print over top. So that's where it's kind of crossing over sense. Is people being like, it's a tool at that point of like, I'm still screen printing the 1 to 5 color prints all day long. But when I'm doing these high color count stuff, like if I can put a digital thing on my auto to cover those huge prints, then that's where it makes sense.
I don't want to make a t-shirt with a picture of somebody's dog on it. So when they call here, I'm going to say, you need to call Upstate Merch. He specializes in pictures of dogs, I guess, on shirts.
We're going to make so many fucking cool dog shirts, and I'm going to send you boxes of them.
And you'll be so jealous.
Yeah, Andy. You'll be like, man, I wish I did it.
You were right, Dylan. You were right.
I'm going to call it Dog Kong, and I'm going to make my own DCG print. So anyway, back to talking about real printing. So what in your mind is next then? What do you think you're going to do? You're going to hold off for a year or two, or you're going to try to do something else?
Yeah. I mean, just because of the current state of the economy and the pandemic, and it's just not a time to make big moves, which I feel good about that. I just had to talk it out a little bit. We have a year and a half left on our current lease. So right now that is my goal, is to get to that finish line and then make a big move. And I do want to get an auto, and I would really love to add embroidery. And there's a potential, I've talked to somebody in town about a partnership for that. So that could be on our radar.
Yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah.
We actually have a place literally right across the street that does embroidery, and it makes no sense for me to get embroidery equipment when I can just walk it across the street. The problem that I have is that, like, we've learned, you can never fully learn screen printing. Like you can know like a ton about it, but there's always new things. There's always things changing. It's like, I'd rather master, in my mind, at least master printing than to be like, for me, embroidery is like a whole nother world. Like it would take me forever to like try to learning screen printing, but also put my mind in a set of like, let me learn to master embroidery. And it's like the people across the street, the lady's been doing it forever. She has like a crew of like whatever, 5 people. It's like, that's all they do all day long is embroidery, like nothing else. So I feel better just being like, hey, like, let's work out a deal. I'll send all my customers for embroidery to you. So that works really well for us. So that might be better than getting an embroidery machine, is just finding somebody that does really good work, especially if they're close. Then it's nice to just be able to drop it off and pick it up.
Yeah, I know enough to know not to just buy an embroidery machine and try to figure it out, because it's a whole big learning curve, just like screen printing. So we have a good relationship with somebody who's also been doing it for a really long time. So
yeah. Did you you got involved with SGIA, didn't you? Are you you were on the board for something, right?
Yeah, so I'm currently on the board, the Garment Decorators of America board at SGIA, which is it's been an interesting experience. I mean, I like it because just being such a small shop, it's just like going to trade shows. It's been a great way for me to get a better understanding of the industry as a whole, even if it's not always the best fit for me. And I, in the beginning at least, didn't really feel like I belonged there because it's huge shops, you know, and people that own 10 autos.
Right, but they need to hear from you.
Yeah, I think that was the idea, is that, you know, I represent the small shop and the just from the garage shop. So I've tried to input that side of it to the board. I don't, you know, I'm one voice out of 15. So I like getting to be a part of that, especially because we put on ThreadX.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's where we first met.
You've gone, right? Oh, yeah, right on. You mean you and Andy or you and I?
Me and you. I don't know if you remember this, but I had breakfast or lunch with you the first ThreadX.
Oh, yeah. I do remember that. What I remember is running into you on the floor of ISS.
Yeah.
You had like an entourage. There was like four dudes behind you, everyone dressed in black.
Security.
And all the fans were lining up for autographs and stuff.
Yeah.
I was parting them out of the way.
There's a big deal over there. Oh, it's Dylan. So yeah, I mean, just the insight and being able to be a part of planning that and then to be able to attend it was great. I didn't get to go to the last one, sadly, but.
Oh, really?
That's the one I was at, was just a few months ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Is it just attendance, or is there other reasoning behind it being the last one?
Oh, I don't know if it was the last one forever. I know there's not going to be one next year.
Oh.
I just meant the previous one. I hadn't gotten a chance to go to that. Although, do you know about my scooter accident?
Yeah, I saw that.
I did not.
What happened?
Well, after one of these Garment Decorator of America committee meetings, here I am in Arizona just trying to hang out with the big wigs, these guys that own the big print shops. And so we go out drinking and I was trying to hang and I had too much to drink and I crashed my e-scooter and ended up in the ER. And
you
had to get
your whole chin got scarred up or something?
Yeah. Yeah, it was really awesome.
Dang.
Did you just like face plant?
Yeah, I think if I remember right, Justin Lawrence of Oklahoma Shirt Company was at the head. And I don't know if you've been on those things, but to my credit, they are very dangerous. And so we're headed back to the hotel. There's probably 6 or 7 of us. And then you just go, ring, ring, and you go, if you're me, you just go piling off the sidewalk and hit your face into the street. So ended up with a bunch of gravel in my face.
Did you do one of those where you hung on to the bar and went down?
Yes, probably. I'm sure it looked amazing. Yeah, so those guys were great. They put me in an Uber. I got stitched up, just totally wonderful. And then shortly after that was ThreadX, and I didn't go to that one. So that was like in February of this year where you guys were at. Mm-hmm. But Alexa, that you guys recently had on in-house prints, Alexa and I, because she's a female screen printer, I followed her on Instagram for a long time. And so I'd been looking forward to going to that ThreadX and meeting her in person, but then I ended up not going. And so we were messaging and she was like, "Are you the one that ate shit on the scooter?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's me. I'm glad I was talked about at ThreadX. Awesome."
Well, it's funny. And I've told this story a couple times where basically you sent me a message on Instagram or whatever. And we're like, "Hey, you planning on going to ThreadX this year?" And I was like, I don't know. I saw the speakers and like, honestly, like it just doesn't look like anything that great to me this year. Like, I don't know if I'm interested in any of the speakers and stuff. And I was like, the first year I went was really good, but I don't think it's going to be that good this year. And I was like, why do you ask? And you're like, "Oh, well, I'm planning it." And I was just like, oh, I instantly like sat back, like no joke, and was like, "Oh God, like why do I do this to
Oh, no.
myself?
Oh, I didn't even think twice about that because I agreed with you. And there's a subcommittee that picks the speakers. And
Yeah.
I've suggested a few. None of mine ever get picked. So
Well, like I know, like there was definitely good people there and good people speaking, but like
yeah,
I've heard it all before. Like I've heard Draplin speak like 3 times, and like some of these other people, like I've heard their stories. Like I'm that print nerd that's like on the internet watching everybody's YouTube videos and all these things, and like people give speeches about like their life story and how they got to where they are, and it's like, and then they're all at an event, and you're like, well, do I pay like $2,000 to go to this event and sit down and hear it all over again? Or like, especially for me too, like I've talked to like other people about this. Like me and Ryan Moore were talking about this a little while ago, and I was like, dude, I'm in New York. Like all these big events that happen are like in LA or Arizona. It's like I literally have to fly across the whole fucking country to get there, and then that alone is like a whole day trip. So like it's like a day there, a day back, and then it's expensive to do these things, and plus it's like in the middle of like a work week or whatever. And
well, fly here first, and then you can chill
hang
here
for a
for a
few
little
days.
bit. Yeah, so it won't be such a big deal.
Yeah.
Stop by St. Louis.
Yeah.
But there needs to be more like East Coast events.
Nobody wants
Are you
to
going
go
to
there.
print?
Everybody here is
It's
just
too far
angry.
for me.
It's true though. It is. It's a stereotype, but it's true. Everybody here is fucking miserable.
Crankier. And from what I hear, everybody on the East Coast dresses nicer, because when I've had friends come out here, I've lived in Oregon my whole life, and they've been like, people are casual here. Everyone's in sneakers. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it is nice. Like we really like ISS out in LA just because it's different. You know what I mean? Like me and the guys from work will all go. And for us, it's the best part of like hanging out with you guys or, anybody on the street. And me and Andy, I think we had this discussion, but it was just like fun shit happens. Like we'll walk along and we'll see you guys at a restaurant or whatever. And we'll be like, hey, yeah, we already ate here, but let's hang later. And then we'll walk out to a street corner and then we'll see a shop walk by and be like, hey, and then talk to them. And then another shop walks by and you're like, hey, and then eventually there's like 35 shops on a street corner just shooting the shit. And it's just like, that to me is worth the trip alone of just like hanging with people and bullshitting. Yeah, you go to the show, you see like new stuff, you're like, oh, that's cool. You're literally there for like 2 hours, and then the rest of the day it's just like, what trouble can we find and what can we do?
It really is fun.
Really fun.
Yeah,
I hope that there's one next year.
That's what I was just going to say. I really hope it happens in January.
I know. I have a feeling right now it's not going to happen, but I've actually been talking to certain industry people or whatever that are saying that due to like coronavirus stuff, these other companies are getting crafty and getting out of the old molds of like, this is what we have, like say you're a manufacturer of equipment or whatever, like for years and years and years to stay relevant with all the other manufacturers. It was like the thing to do. You know what I mean? Like be in the print magazines, go to all the trade shows. Like those things are expensive. Like, getting a booth at a trade show for like any company, like M&R, Rock, like Ryan, all these people, it's like $1 million or something to like do some of these huge booths. And it's like, now that this has happened, it kind of put the brakes on it and people are thinking of new ways to do things. And they're like, oh, well, why don't we do like a virtual trade show or something where we just like walk people around the facility and talk about our equipment. And it's like, yeah, I get that as a company, it's like saves you money and like you have a bigger audience because not everybody can fly to LA, but like it ruins it for people that want to go to like a bar with their other print buddies and like do karaoke and like.
I think you're right. I think it's a little bit of both. I bet we see more virtual trade shows, and then also still there will be that traditional trade show, but just less of them. You know what I mean?
Well, that was the thing too. Like even Ryan was saying, he's like, he told me how many there were a year, like how many trade shows there were. And it was like a crazy number, like way more than I thought. But I was like, we should at least keep the big ones. You know what I mean? Like obviously the big one is the one in January in LA. And it's like that one should stay. And like maybe like a couple across the country, but to have like, I don't remember how many, it's like 80 trade shows a year or something. I was like, dude.
God.
Yeah, I remember him saying that. And it does seem like 4 or 5 or 6 a year would be enough. And if there was some variety, like ISS is so great if you're in the market to buy new equipment, which I really haven't been. But then ThreadX was so great because it's so much more intimate. You're actually getting to sit and talk to people and to be in the.
I loved it. Like the first ThreadX was the one I went to. And I thought it was amazing. Like it was way better than I thought it was going to be. Like it was nice to sit in the room and like it was a nice, comfortable room, comfortable chairs. Like we sat down and we, listened to everybody speak. But to me, as a person who loves food, like that was one of the best parts too. It was like, oh, it's lunchtime. Let's go eat like super good catered food on the lawn and like talk to all these shops.
That was a good one.
That one, I was like, dang, like it's worth a trip.
Dylan,
also,
did you go?
I'm sorry, Amy. I'm sorry.
Did you? At that one, I went back to my hotel after the whole day of speakers. I was actually so inspired and I was just going to go work on my business. So I didn't go to the late night thing, but they gave away a t-shirt gun. Did you go to that? I was so mad. I wanted one so bad.
I went, what did I end up doing? I ended up bar hopping with a couple people. But I don't think I was there for t-shirt gunning. I think they had like a mixer or something afterwards that was like part of the event of like go to this thing. And I think me and a couple other shops were like, screw that. Let's just go find the dive bars in town. And I think that's what we ended up doing. Well,
next time find me. I like the dive bars.
Okay. Yeah. You're welcome to hang with me anytime in my entourage. And we won't ride. Hey, we're way too cool for Lime scooters. So you don't have to worry about crash.
Those days
I think I exceed the weight limit on those things anyway. You'd probably see like a smoke trail behind me.
It was ridiculous how easy that was. I mean, we walked up to it. I didn't have the app. I'd never ridden one before. We don't have them in my town.
Yeah,
within I just pushed a couple buttons and that thing lit up and I just went.
They're cool.
Just not smart. No helmets.
I remember we went to Long Beach, and there was I won't say their name, but there was a shop that went with us that I love how hers is frozen right now. Are you there? Can you hear us?
There it is.
Sorry, and back now. What did I miss?
You were in a real good pose when it locked up.
Yep.
It was good.
Hey, Dylan, before we go, is that a megaphone back there on your?
Yeah.
Is that how you yell at the shop?
Yeah.
You've been going to the protests.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is for protesting.
Can you demo? Can you hear?
No. It's too close to this. Too close to my mic.
You can go downtown Portland with that.
Yeah. No, I've honestly never used it. I think we had it here for a joke at one point. Yeah. We buy a lot of things here that are for one-time jokes. And then there's a lot of random things in this office right now that are from that. But yeah, it's been here for a while. I think I found it in a box the other day and it's just sitting here.
We're still waiting for that plant.
Yeah, we're boxing everything up for the reno next door. So it's kind of empty in here right now. But hey, Amy, thanks for doing this with us. I'm glad you got to do it.
Thanks so much for having me on, and also just for doing this podcast, because it's nice to listen to podcasts about screen printing. I always feel a little bit validated, I'm not the only one that doesn't always know what I'm doing.
Well, yeah, that's part of it. And me and Andy have had that discussion. Is just kind of the whole idea is to show that we all have make shitty mistakes. Just because you're a bigger shop doesn't mean you still don't do things wrong. And the thing with screen printing is it's such an art form that there's a million ways to do it. You do it a certain way, but that doesn't make it wrong. As long as the end product comes out good and your customer's happy and the shirt lasts and it doesn't wash off, I feel like you're doing something right. So
half the time I have a decision to make. I'm just guessing and hoping it comes out. And if it doesn't, then I've just gotten really good at pivoting and saying, okay, well, that was a terrible decision. Let's do this instead, And so oh yeah, hire Steve. He's awesome. And then 2 weeks later, Steve sucks, And so it's
that one's the worst. And that's the worst.
You got to figure, it's just so decisions are. You're just a lot of times you're just taking your best guess, and they don't, and just not be afraid that they're wrong, and then as soon as possible, just pivot, do something else. That's what
I think the biggest thing is to just be willing to constantly improve and do research and be involved. like you said, like doing SGIA, like that alone makes you feel like you want to grow all the time and like learn new things from all these people. It's like this podcast, like me and Andy are bullshitting and talking to each other, but we're talking to you, and like you might give us a nugget of information that we didn't know, and like we're learning. Like when you were talking about the paper wraps or something, or like just being eco-friendly and stuff like that. Neither of us, like we're trying, but like that's not like a huge thing that we're learning right now. So like you might have something for us that we didn't know. And I mean, there's tons I don't know. I don't know a lot of shit. I just have been doing this for 10 years. It doesn't make me smart.
Well, and that's why I appreciate the podcast, is because the more I listen to these, I realize everyone is just figuring it out, and we're not so far off base.
Yeah.
And Dylan's not as smart as I thought he was. So now I know.
No,
Damn it.
now it's recorded. Obvious.
The world
Entourage.
knows now.
Yeah.
They're actually cardboard cutouts that I have on wires that follow me around.
Well, thanks a lot, you guys.
No problem. We'll see you later.
Thanks, Amy.
Okay.
See ya.
See ya.
Have a good day.